Hey guys, so in today's video it'll be another tropical update on Tropical Storm Cristobal. And as of the 2 p.m. advisory, officially Cristobal has made its second landfall along the Mexican coast near the Yucatan and has started to weaken again. It's now at 50 miles per hour and 996 millibars, moving south-southeast at 3 miles per hour. So it is starting to try and finish doing that loop, and it's kind of starting to move. So it'll start to move more towards the east, and then finally we'll start to head northward towards the Gulf Coast. Though it most likely won't really start to move north until like Friday, so it will really just stay persistent as it has been over the past 2 days, dumping all this heavy rain on southern Mexico, Yucatan, El Salvador, and Belize. So the cone as of right now, the newest one from the 2 p.m. advisory, has it now. It's making landfall into southern Mexico near the Yucatan, and then finally towards probably maybe around noon Thursday, actually, according to this cone, it will really start to make its turn northward, and it looks like it will actually weaken back down to a tropical depression. And then as it starts heading northward, it will move back over the Gulf of Mexico and will start to re-strengthen again. So as of right now, I believe the current peak intensity for Cristobal is 60 miles per hour with a pressure of 994 millibars. So we'll have to see how much more it really strengthens. You can see by from this cone by what does this say? By 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on June 4th. June 4th, that's tomorrow. So by tomorrow evening, we'll be back down to a tropical depression with sustained winds of 35 miles per hour. And then it will stay that way through the early morning on Friday at 7 a.m. at 35 miles per hour, still a tropical depression. But then actually, I want to zoom this in a bit. There we go. So by what does this say? By evening time on Friday, it'll be back up to tropical storm status with 45 mile per hour sustained winds. And then by the time we get to early in the morning on Sunday, it will be back up to 65 miles per hour. So potentially it'll get a new peak intensity. So there's that. Now I want to show. I'm going to show the arrival time of the winds. Actually, I got to show this at some point, so why not now? You can see southern Mexico, Yucatan. There's this same general area. It's been impacting for the past couple days. We'll continue to feel its impacts from now through Thursday evening, Thursday night. And then finally, the storm will start to move north away from Mexico in this area, going into more of the central Gulf and open waters, and will start to strengthen more. And then you can see, as of right now, for Louisiana, the arrival time of tropical storm force winds, the earliest reasonable arrival time is around 8 p.m. on Saturday. So only about 3 days away from the system finally moving north and actually making landfall in the U.S. on the Gulf Coast. Man, that's crazy. So the wind speed probabilities, as you can see, of course, it's near 100% here. Down in Mexico, because it's already making impacts there. It's full impacts there. And then as it heads north towards Louisiana, the chances are up towards 30% for these southern areas, mainly, and then like for New Orleans and pretty much most of Louisiana, it's generally, as of right now, up to 20% chance for tropical storm force winds. And then let's do 50 knot wind speed probabilities. You can see generally here, I mean, really the coast, honestly, it's pretty much getting its 50 knot wind speed, 50 knot wind speed, 58 mile per hour wind speed. Probably it's more toward 40 though, 40 to 50 miles per hour. And then you can see even for Louisiana, they have up to a 10% chance of 50 knot wind speed probabilities as of right now, but up to the 20% chance is just offshore there. So going into the next day or two, we'll most likely see that percentage increase a lot for Louisiana. The hurricane wind speed probabilities, there's really nothing, so because it's not really expected to become a hurricane at this point. Now that it has really actually impacted and made landfall again in the same area of Mexico, my forecast for Cristobal has gone down to maybe peaking at most maybe a weak Category 1 hurricane, but generally I think its peak will be between 60 and 70 miles per hour. And that seems to be a good general consensus with what the NHC is showing and really what the models are showing. So now let's go to tropical tidbits and look at the current storm right now. So here's the storm as of right now. You can see we had that big blow up in convection right before landfall, so that really peaked its intensity up to that 60 miles per hour, and its pressure dropped a ton into the low 990s. But now you can see the convection is kind of dying off now since it's away from that main heat source of the warm waters. But will most likely be over the waters and getting its main heat source again and strengthening more within the next day or two. We can actually, let's look at the visible high res. You can see that. I mean, it still looks generally pretty good for the system for a tropical storm. It had that big blow up, and now it's kind of starting to even out and kind of weakening now. Now you can see actually the new the 12Z intensity guidance from the models. They're generally, of course, showing it decreasing in intensity generally because of its making landfall and its land interaction again with Mexico. And then it will start to intensify more as it's going back over the open waters of the Gulf, heading towards the U.S. Gulf Coast. And then it'll make its final landfall, most likely, by the way, towards like central Louisiana. And then it'll like dissipate after some amount of time by then. So now let's look at the forecast models. We're going to look at the GFS first. So you can see it's made landfall there, and it's going to generally stay in that area for the next day and a half. And then it looks like, thankfully, the GFS, I think, is really now finally starting to move away from the fact that the low pressure center, the main low pressure center for Cristobal, will die out, and then like another low pressure center will take over with its remaining moisture, and it would like potentially become Dolly. That doesn't seem to be the case anymore, thankfully, and it's finally catching on to what the other models are showing. So it's generally showing a generally weak system up through landfall in central and eastern Louisiana, only getting down to like 997 millibars. I don't know. I have to say, I think it will get back down into the low 990 millibars, maybe into the upper 980 millibars to right around 990 millibars, with how much it seems to potentially be intensifying between finally heading north from Mexico up and getting right before it makes landfall in Louisiana, or the general area near Louisiana, along the Gulf Coast. So let's look at the really, I want to I'm going to go to the southeast U.S. and let's look at the total rainfall amounts for this system. and you can see generally they'll get, especially for Louisiana, generally they'll get 2 inches plus, and then getting to like generally very eastern parts of Louisiana, right along the border with Mississippi, maybe up towards 4 inches of rain, and then in southern Mississippi, maybe above maybe 6-7 inches of rainfall. So it'll be a decent rainmaker for these areas. Thankfully, it won't be that wet of a system as it was down in Mexico. So that's honestly, that's really great. So now let's go back and look at let's go back to MSLP and Precip, bring this back, and look at the CMC. So you can see there's the CMC down there, and it makes landfall and then starts heading northward. And the CMC has it maybe slightly farther east, but getting a little stronger than what the GFS is showing, and getting down towards 996, 995 millibars, and then making landfall in very eastern Louisiana, maybe pretty much the border of Louisiana and Mississippi, right near New Orleans. Which, again, please, people around New Orleans and that area, you guys have to be ready for this. I think you guys will really need to be the main ones getting ready for this. So, yeah, please just make sure you're as ready as possible and as soon as possible. So let's look at what the CMC is showing for total rainfall. And we move this out in time farther, and you can see it's showing, again, kind of agreeing with what the GFS was showing, 2+ inches for this general eastern area around New Orleans, and then really New Orleans itself maybe getting 3-4 inches, and then just north of New Orleans maybe getting up towards 7 to 9 or 10 inches. And then even the Panhandle, Florida, according to the CMC, could get up to close to a foot of rainfall, probably more like between 10 to 12 inches. So it will definitely still be a decent rainmaker, I have to say. So now let's look at the Euro. Okay, hold on. Well, we got to mark this as red for now. Sorry about that. I'm gonna go to pivotal weather so I can show what the Euro is showing for its MSLP and precip and the total precipitation, total rainfall for that Louisiana area. Let's zoom into southeast U.S. And make this a forecast loop. Okay. Bring this forward in time. Okay, hold on. All right. Bring this through time. See the storm starts heading up, getting down to 988, 989. Actually, this brings it a little farther, more towards, really kind of jogs it more to the left, kind of does somewhat of a left turn, and then makes landfall kind of generally where the GFS was showing, the central Louisiana coastline, going into central Louisiana, and then moving northwestward and then northward through western Louisiana into Arkansas and Mississippi. All right, so now let's look at the total precipitation, total accumulated. Here we go. There we go. All right, here we go. So the Euro is generally showing up towards, for New Orleans itself, maybe up towards 8.5 inches of rainfall, maybe close to 9 inches. But generally, the state of Louisiana looks to get above 2 inches of rainfall. But the majority of the rainfall for Louisiana is really for its coastline and the New Orleans area. And so this will generally still be a decent rainmaker for the Louisiana, Mississippi coastline areas. Of course, thankfully not as much of a rainmaker as the Cristobal was for southern Mexico, the Yucatan, Belize, El Salvador, Guatemala, those areas. So yeah, that's it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Please like, comment, subscribe below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.